Hi. Okay, no, the rule is I say hi and you say hi back. Hi. There we go. There we go. Thank you very much. Um, for those of you who are like what are wondering like what the dickens is this? My background is actually in nonprofit arts management. I get super excited about stuff like that, and I've moved into working in the management school for the College of Business at Whitewater, and I get to talk about creativity and creating a culture where businesses like you can actually create a space where people want to do stuff and they can accomplish things, right? As opposed to just going, oh, there's a problem. Let's just sit here and be scared about it. And so when I had the chance to talk about this, in front of you all, I thought this could be fun. So I'm going to warn you, I don't sit still well. I walk back and forth and I kind of go in here, and so I'm just letting you know now. Okay, I got my my last joke before I get started. My students, since I'm from the arts and I teach in the College of Business, my students either really like me, Madison knows this, they either really like me or they're like, you're not from around here, are you? And so, nope, you're right. I get excited about stuff. But enthusiasm, in addition to enthusiasm, I will tell you, I strongly believe in the idea of creativity. And I work with people all the time who are like, I'm not creative. And I always say to them, it's a matter of how you're creative. It's not a matter of whether you're creative. And I'm going to talk about that in a little bit, okay? And as nonprofit leaders, nonprofit people who work in nonprofits, I want to help you think about how you can create a space where people feel confident to try things, and then also to have some measurables so that you don't just go off in the distance where you're not supposed to be, but you can create a space where new stuff can happen. So, all right. So, why do we just talk about it? Like, do we just have to get stuff done? Because we're all busy. I was in the session before, and we're like, I'm busy. I'm writing grants, and I'm managing volunteers, and I'm doing program work, and what? And so, yeah, you do need to take some time. By the way, I did that graphic. I was pretty proud of me. I'm not going to pretend. Like, I had to think really hard in the PowerPoint to do this graphic-y thing. But anyway, we use curiosity, which leads us to creativity, right? Which leads to innovation in coming up with new solutions to whatever we've got going on. New, not even always problems, but just new things. Problem solving, and then eventually addressing our mission. Like that's what it's all about. All of this is about addressing our mission. And starting with curiosity. Okay, curiosity obviously is very important. I'll step back here. These are all the reasons why, and I also break the 7x7 rule, in PowerPoint where, it's supposed to have like 7 words, 7 lines. I totally break that too. Sorry. But I can tell you that, when we think about why we need to spend time on it, when we spend time developing this culture, we solve our problems better. People feel like they belong. Because they're like, just because I don't look like, feel like, think like them doesn't mean that they don't value what I bring to the table. That's a really important thing, especially, I would say, in nonprofits. So how do we do this? The 4 functions of management, which is where the management geek in me. There's planning, leading, organizing, and controlling. That's when we talk management. That's one of the things we talk about. And so I'm going to kind of walk through each of these things. And then, just so you know, I'm going to actually get into some exercises like that you can take back with you. That's my intent. All right? So I may go through this a little bit quickly. I will say, if I talk too fast, like you're like, wait a minute, stop, please feel free to say, can you just go back on that one? I really don't mind, okay? So just know that. All right, so in leading, one of the 4 functions of management, leadership is key. And you might go, well, duh, but I think it's important that we put that out there, right? Leadership, you have to hire for your curiosity. And I also get that someone's like, but I need a skill set. Absolutely. You need a skill set. You need someone who knows how to raise funds or do a program or whatever it is. It's not always opposite, right? You can also hire for curiosity, where you can ask questions in your interview. What would you do if this happened? Or what do you think about this? Or what are you curious about? Even just asking questions in the interview. You can think about trying to hire for curiosity. Model inquisitiveness. You all, like, what if we did this? What do you think? How could we maybe try this? Like, just model it so people can see that it's a value you bring to the table. Let employees explore their interests. I'm not going to read every single word. So, like I said, you can read them and then you can ask questions if I don't cover something specifically. But what, you need to know your people, right? Not only the people who work with you, but the people you serve as a nonprofit. What if you actually, like, asked them what they cared about? And I understand that you're like, well, that's what we do at nonprofits. Yes. Sometimes in the for-profit world, we don't bother to do that. So I always make a point of saying, just ask. And if someone doesn't want to tell you, you don't need to be creepy about it, right? They may not feel, they like that boundary, and that's fair. There's personalities that are like, yeah, this is not my place. But what if you tried to find out, just by a simple question, what'd you do this weekend? Or when you were in high school, what were you involved with? Or when you were growing up, what did you like to do? Simple, easy questions, right? Getting to know people. And that's one reason why I include these here, because we tend to go, it's super hard. This is going to be a major, long process. But really, actually, no, right? What if you literally just had a whiteboard and you put on the whiteboard, how might we? Or what if? Doesn't cost a lot of money. You put little Post-it notes on there. What if you gave people a chance to put an idea out there? And we're, like I said, we're going to get into the KPI part, key performance indicators, so that you don't just, because people can say, I would love to do this. And you're like, awesome, not in our mission, don't have the budget, but, maybe we can figure out another way to make that happen, or we're going to let it go. I also recognize that in nonprofits, often, when you say no to somebody, because their heart is there, their passion is there, when you say no to somebody, they don't always take it as a neutral no, they take it as a personal no. And I totally get that. So that is something we need to navigate as nonprofits, right? So, however, leaders can also be barriers to creativity. And you can read why, right? It's costly. It can be costly. And we don't have a lot of extra money floating around, especially when we're running a smaller nonprofit or a brand new nonprofit or whatever it is. Sometimes it can make people harder to manage because they're like, well, you said, how might we? I put it on the board. Now let me go do this thing, right? So that's where the communication comes in, and we'll talk a little bit about that in a second, right? Slows down decision-making, is inefficient, questions status quo. You're like, we got a program going. Don't question that. We got a thing going. So it's fair for leaders to go, this is a little scary. It's true, right? So what do? Organizing and planning. By the way, these are two more functions of management, in case I didn't say that out loud. Leaders, they are afraid of starting from scratch. They're willing to try something from the very beginning. They're able to see how things connect, okay? Help people, or maybe, here's the other thing. What if you can't see how things connect, because that's, for whatever reason, not the way your brain works, but what if someone who works for you can, and you gave them the permission to do that? Like just as simply as, you know what, here's your strength. Help me out with this. And then they felt empowered and trusted, okay? Willing to, I'm trying to see which screen to look at, able to see the larger picture, able to see the needs of other stakeholders. And this is actually what I really like, the stakeholder piece that Ruth was talking about in the previous session. The stakeholders, it's more than just, your stakeholders is everybody. It's your employees, it's your volunteers, it's the people you serve, it's your board, it's your funders, it's the community that isn't even necessarily connected to you directly, but they know you're there. Or maybe it's a partner organization, right? So learning about your other stakeholders helps you create this culture of curiosity, because you start knowing more information, and then when you start making decisions about what you do and how you solve problems, you've got information, right? So rather than trying to teach it, why don't we remove perceived barriers? Rewarding curiosity. And I will say, as I was putting this together, because I know how excited I get about it, but I sincerely want to acknowledge that it's easier for me to talk, right? I'm not pretending that if boots on the ground. I will say I'm on the board of a nonprofit arts organization, so I do live some of this. I'm not going to pretend, okay? But I don't work full-time in a nonprofit organization, so I can acknowledge and I want to recognize and say out loud. Some of you are like, that's great, Megan, but you don't know what I deal with. You're right, I don't. And so you can take some of this, whatever works for you. Take the pieces that fit for you in your organization and go with it. Stretch assignments. Maybe you bring a volunteer on they came in as, in my world, theater, right? They came in as a docent or a volunteer. They wanted to just seat people, but you found out, oh, they actually are a tech person. Maybe you could give them an opportunity to help you with some of your tech if they're interested, right? That's actually, most of you probably know, one of the reasons why people volunteer is because they're trying to grow in some area. So you provide a stretch assignment. Provide job rotations, create a space. Like, what if you could even just create a wall or a corner of an office? Again, I guess sometimes our spaces are smaller, but what if you could create just a space where people could play with Legos or Play-Doh. And you're like, that's silly. Uh-huh. You're trying to create a space where people can just think. And it doesn't take a lot of money. That's why I say that. You don't have to build a new building, and that, if you get the money and you have the vision and the mission, yay. But you really just can start with a little space. Support diversity in all its forms. We all know that. It's absolutely, we're saying again and again and again, right? That is a very important part of creating a culture of curiosity. All right, so then controlling. So we did planning, leading, organizing, and controlling, okay? So KPIs, key performance indicators. That's a big word in my world. I will say in nonprofits, and I want to recognize this, it's sometimes hard to quantify what we do, right? When I talk about nonprofits to my students, because I say basically you will either work for a nonprofit, be served by a nonprofit, donate to a nonprofit. You need to understand nonprofits. You need to understand them. Business people, I'm happy that you're going to go run a Fortune 500 company. Yay, you. You're still going to need to understand how nonprofits work, right? So you can create these key performance indicators that are about results, okay, timeliness, quality of work, but it's not necessarily how many widgets or how many programs or whatever it is. This is the definition in case it's a new word to you. Many of you are like, I get it, that's fine, but I don't want to assume that people talk the same language I do in business school, so that's why I'm putting that out there, okay? Measures progress toward the company's short and long-term goals. That's why they're important. That's why you can have the how might me and what if we did days, but you got to have some, okay, so how are we going to measure whether this was successful or not? Okay, there's a lot of words here. I don't think I need to spend time on it. But why do they fail? I think that's a good one to pay attention to. The wrong KPIs. Okay, you're focusing on the wrong objective. You're not focusing on maybe you're focusing on a minute detail versus big picture. Now, I'm going to tell you in this session, I didn't want to spend a lot of time giving you a bad KPI and a good KPI. I didn't want to spend time because I wanted to get down to design thinking and some of the other activities you can do that don't cost anything. But it is important to acknowledge that when you do a KPI, which is important, they can fail. Okay, and then I also talk a reality check for our work. If you work, for instance, in an organization that serves people who don't want to be identified, maybe they don't have a home right now, or maybe they have mental health issues, or whatever it is. So it can be hard to measure. And I want to say that out loud and very loud, actually, because it's something we need to think about. You still might be able to measure number with no names, and I think Ruth was talking about that. You don't always have to know names. Right? Or sometimes, you might be able to do even just a sit-down conversation with somebody about how is your life different since you've been involved with us, whatever that looks like. But it's okay to acknowledge that KPIs can be hard, but they're still important because otherwise you waste your energy, your money, and your time, and funders get really annoyed, right? So we need to make sure we do that. Okay, I'm just doing a quick check. I've thrown lots of words out at you. Do you have any questions or counter conversations or anything like that? Seriously, because I'm throwing a lot of words at you, and I want to give you a chance to ask questions. Yeah. Yeah. As to what those might look like? That's a great question. So if I were to throw a thought out there, for instance, if you've got someone who is, I'm just going to go with theater because that's the world I come at this from, right? If you've got a backstage design, you just brought someone in as a backstage person, right? And you may just hire them literally to just put sets together and get stuff going. A stretch assignment might be, do you want to work with the people to design the next set? Do you want to try with lights? And so my point is just giving him a chance to grow in another skill set because you never know when that skill set might be valuable. It can also be stuff that they may be uncomfortable with because you see something in them they don't know they have. Does that answer your question? Got it? Okay. There's a hand over here? Yeah. Oh. Sure. How to not, what? Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. That is what when I'm talking job rotation. It's giving them a chance to do a different thing, and it's kind of related to stretch, but it's not exactly the same. We're not going to worry too much about the nuance, right? But yes, I would. That's what I'm talking about. Or someone who may come in as your marketing person and they're really great with people, and all of a sudden you're like, you'd be phenomenal as our volunteer person to go recruit and train and maintain volunteers. So yes, that is part of it, because you're right. People get burned out and they're like, I can't do this anymore, and give them something else to do so you can hopefully keep them. And then they have some information for you that you can use when you're trying to come up with, they've got some history. So when you're trying to come up with new solutions or understand stakeholders, they've got some background with you. We good? All right. All right. KPIs. People are people. I had a person come into my class once, and she said, people are messy. And if you've managed people in any way, shape, or form, you know this, right? The thing is, as nonprofit leaders, managers, whatever, we need to understand that when we start saying, let's do this really cool new thing, or let's change our program just a little bit, you're going to have some resistance because people are scared. And I want us to acknowledge that as leaders. We can't just pretend that everyone's going to be completely on board the minute we're excited about something, right? So we need to say, okay, what are they uncertain about? What is it that they think they're going to lose? What would scare you about innovation? And it's okay if no one feels brave enough. I'm not going to be mad, but I didn't want to be talking the whole time. But you can, if you don't want to talk, just think. Okay, just think about what you'd be scared of. It's fair. Yeah, Ruth. Yeah. Is my work going to be recognized? And not just recognized from a yay me stand perspective, but like, I spent a lot of time putting this together. Yeah, that's fair. Yeah. Oh, so much. Yeah, very good. Yeah. Can you say that last part? It's okay if we what? Say all those things you said. It's okay if we. Yeah. Very great answer. Good job. Good job. Was that a hand or a wiggle? Okay, just making sure. All right. So when we deal with, and some of you just said this, right? But when we're trying to change things and we know that people are scared, like, can we sustain this? These are some things that you can answer, right? If you're saying we're going to roll out this new program, we're going to do this new thing, I'm going to ask you to do a stretch assignment. I'm going to ask you to do a job rotation. As leaders, we need to do this. Now, by the way, I want to say this isn't just for staff people. This is for volunteers too. Okay, I want to put that straight out there. But what is in the change for me? I'm supposed to stay here. What will I have to give up? Are people going to recognize what I've done in the past? They're putting me in a new position, but are they going to remember what I did when I was a marketer? And guess what? As leaders and managers and people who are working with this, you can answer these questions. You can say, yeah, actually, you were so phenomenal here. I know you can do a good job at this too. Whatever that looks like. Am I in a position to make a difference? Do I have the energy? Back to burnout, which we all know is so much more than real, right? Do I have the energy? And if you think someone doesn't, what about asking them what you could do to help them get there, have the energy to make the change? Understanding that you can't say yes to everything because there are just limited resources and all the rest. So I'm not saying and then they get to say, buy me a new car and give me $30,000 raise. if money is, okay, money's not on the table, what else could we do to help you feel more confident about this? It's a matter of inquisitiveness, asking questions, okay? Now, this is my next favorite slide. People talk about, not being creative. Answer these questions in your head. You don't have to answer them out loud. Did you ever figure out a different way to use silverware? I have a 4-year-old grandson. I literally thought of this slide when I was with my 4-year-old grandson not too long ago, because he was like doing all the stuff, right? And so maybe you did that. Maybe you built something out of Legos or blocks without actual instructions. Like you just thought, it'd be cool. Oh, this would look cool. Let me do this. I always tell students I don't want to know the answer to the third question. Did you ever figure out a way to do something your parents told you not to? La, 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 la. Right? Figured out how to fix things, whatever it is, right? That's the idea. When my students tell me I'm not creative because I'm not an artist, I say, no. Supply chain needs creativity too. Service needs absolute creativity. My most recent example is if you think that they didn't have to come up with some creative way to figure out how to get that big boat out of the canal, hello, they had to do some problem solving there. They had to think about stuff, do stuff differently. Supply chain in the last several years, right? So you're getting the point. This is another piece I really like, and it's got actual research behind it, which is why I think it's nice to include. Maybe some of you heard the George Land study. Maybe you haven't. It's okay, but he did it in the mid-'60s, as you can see here, and he studied 1,500, 1,600 4- and 5-year-olds. Look at the numbers up there. When he studied them, 98% of 4- and 5-year-olds tested as creative geniuses, according to a NASA test. Not like, ooh, what color is red? I mean, it's like, and think about it. And think about the young people you know. They come up with cool, interesting stuff all the time. And then, as you can see, they move forward. By the time you're 31, 2%. And then, of course, the question is, where did it go? What happened? Now, and some people, and I will tell you, I do believe this, because I work with people who don't think they're creative and then they figure out they are. Creativity is a muscle. Now, I am not at all saying that people who are phenomenal dancers, musicians, and artists, whatever, program managers, I do think there's gifts, right? But I think what's really important is to think about who you're comparing yourself to. I'm not an artist. I'm not creative. I'm not Picasso. No, it's not about that. It's about how you're creative. It's about where your muscle goes. That's the thing, and that's the thing you can encourage your people with. You don't have to be like them. Be you. Figure out what you bring to the table and why what you do matters. And that's what good leaders can do without spending a dime. Little time, which sometimes I know we don't have, but we can do that, right? Okay. Oh, Sir Ken Robinson, anyone ever heard of him? Okay. If you ever want to, it's a TED Talk, and he talks about do schools kill creativity, and he's not trashing on schools. He's really not. He's just talking about Industrial Revolution and sort of the mindset that we got going, and it just makes you think, how do we make schools so that they don't do that? So it's just a talk. If you like TED Talks, it's a good one. All right. So then, some tactics. Paper clips and ice cream cones. Literally, these are some things you can do. Don't cost a dime to try and foster a culture of creativity, okay? You're like, well, Megan, what are paper clips and ice cream cones? So let's see. Anyone want to volunteer? All you have to do is come up with an idea. You don't have to dance or do anything like that. You just have to come up with an idea. Anyone want to volunteer, or you can all avert your eyes? Okay. So you could connect a paperclip and an ice cream cone by playing that sort of a game. Brilliant. How cool is that? No, seriously, okay, I wouldn't have thought of that. Not at all. Then, okay, one more person, give it a shot. How would you connect paper clips and ice cream cones? Yeah. You're right. I didn't tell you only had one paper clip, did I? Yeah. So you could use it to hold the ice cream cone. Simple. What if you did this in a staff meeting and they're like, they're like, what are you spending my time like this for? Because I'm trying to get you to think. Just new stuff. The 90-10 rule. Many of you might know this already, but we tend to spend 90% of our time figuring out what went wrong and who to blame, and 10% of our time figuring out what to do, right? What if we flip that as nonprofit leaders, especially as we're trying to make aspirational goals that we can talk to our volunteers and funders and our clients and stakeholders about? What if we said, what's possible? How can we make that happen? And then, yeah, we need to make sure, okay, that did not go right. That we failed there. That was not, we will never do that again. That was not good. And seriously can say, that was not good. But what if we spent most of our time figuring out what we can make happen? Another one is yes and. Okay. Anyone here a theater person? Okay. If you've never heard of this technique, and it's more than fine. Honestly, I'm from theater, and I didn't hear about it till I started putting this thing together. Yes and. Basically, it's an improv technique in theater. So someone will come up with an idea, and then someone else will go yes and they come up with an additional idea. Okay? So let's play for a moment. And yeah, I'm just going to call on a couple of you. Please don't avert your eyes. I promise I won't. It's okay. We're all friends here, okay? And even if we're not, we're going to be professional colleagues, and it's going to be fine. Okay, so if I, let's see. Yes, and. I think, what if we create, I'm going to go in theater, okay? What if we created theater where you could have parents and their kids on stage acting out a drama? Deborah, yes, and? Ooh, yeah, okay, very cool. All right. How about a yes, and? Add to that idea. And there's no wrong answer here, sincerely. Ooh, so they have to have well-trained pets. Okay, all right. How about yes, and? You guys are brilliant. I love it. Okay, one more. Yes, and? Good job. Didn't cost a dime, did it? And not even a lot of time, right? But we're like, oh, okay. And yeah, it's a little uncomfortable to kind of put yourself out there, but it's an easy way to get some new ideas. Listen, here's another big one. How we doing? Okay, listen. And I say this because I actually did raise funds for a while in my life, and I'm a great talker. Man, I can talk a person's ear off. And I get super excited, and I'm like, this is why what we're doing is so important. And when I went to an AFP conference, they said, shush. It's not about you. It's not about you talking. It's about you listening. And you finding out what inspires the people you're talking to and how what they care about is connected to what you're already doing. So as nonprofit leaders and managers, we listen. And we allow for silence. And we ask a question, and it's okay if someone doesn't respond right away. That can be really hard. And some of you are like, I'm a great listener, and I'm very happy for you. Seriously, I am. That's awesome. But for people like me, there's so many times when I'm just like, especially in my classroom, when I like want people to answer, and I'm like, right? And I just have to shut up. Be quiet. Whatever the word, I have to be quiet. I had a student once, and maybe some of you are already thinking this. She was a very quiet student, brilliant student, and I, because I'm a talker, I was like, well, if you're not talking and engaged and looking at me and whatever, you're obviously disengaged. And she's like, Megan, no, actually. I'm listening. I know what I think. I want to know what you think, and I want to know what other students think. That was one of the best lessons I ever got from a student. If someone looks disengaged, it does not always mean they're disengaged. And if they are disengaged, there's probably a reason, and I need to offer some grace, frankly, right? But back that up one step, I had to learn how to just let people, that there be silence so people could come up with a new idea. All right, so I'm not going to play this video because it's 6 minutes, but can I just tell you what the general gist of this is? I love the fact that we're talking more about followers, not just leaders. In management, like we always just talk about be a leader, and the yay leaders. Followers are phenomenally important. You can lead all you want, but if you don't have anyone coming up after you, you're not going to have anyone doing what you need to have done, right? So this guy talks about basically pay attention to your first follower. Like when you come up with a new idea or your business, your organization tries to do a new idea, pay attention to the first person who says, "That's cool, I'm going to join." That's a really important person to pay attention to. That's the gist of what this was talking about, okay? All right, design thinking. Again, read of the room so I understand. Has anyone heard of design thinking? Some? Yes? Okay. It is a process. There's IDEO is a place out of California, Stanford, and they developed this process. Essentially, what I would say it is, again, coming from theater, from the arts, design thinking is a process that artists and creatives have been doing. I say that word, creatives. Creatives have been doing since we've been painting on walls and caves. Right? It's not like new, but what it is it's codified. So people who don't think of themselves as creative, like if you got a staff and they're like, I don't see myself this way, it's a process that you can walk people through. And I'm going to, by the way, we've got a little bit of time, and I think I'm actually going to try and walk us through just a real short process of design thinking, okay? First step, empathize, understand, okay? You talk to your customers. With some of the things that I'm talking about doing in another org I'm working with, right? Talk to them. And I know that you know this, but sometimes it's how you ask the question. You talk to them, and then you figure out, okay, so what feedback am I getting? Then you talk about, okay, so now that I'm getting this feedback, what kind of ideas do I come up with? And back to what we were talking about over here, your first idea more than likely isn't going to be the one you end up with, and that's okay. That's part of the process of design thinking. You're supposed to come up with several ideas and then land on one. And then prototype in my in my perfect classroom. Well, that's why it's why I bring Legos and Play-Doh into my classroom. Just like gives people a chance to fuddle with stuff and make things, right? So you could do that in your offices. You could have Play-Doh day or something like that. And then test. So basically design thinking is about coming up with lots of ideas and then coming down to the one that works for you. That's if you want a real short summary, that's what design thinking is about. And so I've got an exercise here, and this should take like an hour. We've got like 10 minutes, so trust me, it's going to go fast, okay? But I can at least walk you through an actual process. 15, 15, right? Okay, good. Because I got another process I want to walk you through too. Because I am a practitioner. I'm about let's have you walk away with stuff. Okay, that's what I'm trying to do here. And I did not think this up. I'm trying to give credit to the gentleman who brought this into UW-Whitewater, and I've been using it in my classroom ever since. Fred Clopey from Case Western Reserve University used this exercise to teach us about design thinking. So, I don't care. Everybody talk to like 2 or 3 people each, and I'm only going to give you like a minute, okay, because we got to get through this. But talk about a keychain. Think about a keychain you have. I don't even have to show it, but like think about a keychain you have. And I want you to think about what that keychain means to you. For instance, the story I used to tell my students is I've got a key that gets me into my office, and it has a fob from the Young Auditorium at UW-Whitewater. And the reason why I keep that key fob is because the reason I got into arts management is because the Young Auditorium was just being built when I was like, oh, this is a thing. And the person who was running the Young Auditorium said, Megan, why are you not in arts management? And I'm like, I don't know, I was going to go be a business person. And literally my life shifted, right? So that fob, did you hear some of the things I said? Like, it's personal to me. And I specifically use this fob. Plus, it gets me into offices. Oh, by the way, when I needed to get into where the costumes were put together, I could unlock the door. So what I want you to do when someone talks about this key fob or whatever it is, I just want you to hear what they're saying, right? Think about what it is, the thing that, like words. Again, if I had, lots of time and sticky notes, I'd put you all over the walls. But just think about, listen for meaning and take notes. You don't have to take notes because we've got just a few minutes. But you see what I mean? You're listening to them and you're going, okay, let me just ask you, when you heard what I said, what kind of words came to your brain? Okay, yeah. By the way, I should have said this. I don't know is an okay answer, and we need to say that in our teams. I don't know is an okay answer. I get that we got to get to a solution. I totally understand that. But when we're ideating, when we're coming up with this, I don't know is okay. So, 2 thoughts. He did exactly what I'm hoping you will do with whoever you talk to. Like just come up with some thoughts, some ideas about what you're hearing when they talk about this key fob or whatever. And then the couple of you, 2, 3, 4, I don't care really. Everybody talk to somebody though, because otherwise I'll come talk to you. Okay, so seriously, so listen to each other, and then come up with a new product. A new product. It doesn't have to be a keychain. A new product based on the words that you all came up with as to why a keychain was important to you. Does it what? Oh, you said memorable and congratulations. So you don't have to use those words. No, you'll use your own words. But then you would say, then we would basically come up with another way to address those things somehow. Maybe it's, we give them people a prize. Whatever. I don't need to waste time right now. But we would take those words and we come up with a new product. Okay? It's gonna be fun. All right. So you're like, I was gonna say, all the Type A people are going, I don't know exactly what she wants from me. It's gonna be okay. It's gonna be apt because it's gonna be fine. Really gonna be fine. Just literally give it a shot. Okay? You can't mess this up. All right. I'm gonna give you like 4 minutes. Go. Maybe 5. If you're still talking, maybe 5. One minute. 1 minute. All right. All right. So now, good job. All right, good job. See? It's fun, isn't it? I know. All right. All righty. So, all right, 30 seconds. Engaged. All right. I know. No, but that's the thing, right? Yeah. Huh? It's fun. You already did this once, didn't you? Did I do this? Oh. All right. I'm gonna have a. I'm gonna. Can I ask? Okay, in a minute. Can I ask you to share too? Like what? Can I ask you to share what you came up with? You can say no. Yeah, because I'm gonna ask them in a minute. Okay, so first of all, imagine if you had a staff meeting where people were that engaged, right? Where you had to actually like call them in the nicest, friendliest way possible so that you can actually accomplish things. You just found out about the people, motivations that you're sitting with. You did this in a staff meeting or with volunteers or with training, whatever it is. You found out what motivates them, what they care about. You also found out how they think. You also found out what kind of new ideas they could come up with. Pretty cool. Didn't cost a dime. Take half an hour, maybe an hour of your staff meeting, whatever it is, right? So now I'm going to ask a couple people to come up with their ideas, their new product. And again, I get 4 minutes, so not enough time. But you get the process and you get why it's important when we try and create this kind of a culture, okay? All right, I asked this group. I'm going to ask one group I didn't ask already, but you'll know what you need to do in these two. So what did you come up with? What did you come up with? Uh-huh. Sure. And yeah, in 4 minutes, it's okay that that's as far as you got. So that's but you thought about how you took what you learned and you might use it some new way, right? And I'll ask this group too. What did you come up with? There you go. All right. Good job. Yeah, good job. Good job. Yeah. Now, and here's the other thing I tell people. Those two came up, and you two came up with something that no one else in the entire universe would come up with. I get that other people come up with apps, but the point is you two together came up with something unique because of you two. And you two. And your staff, the people on your staff, your volunteers, help you come up with something that no one else could come up with because it's you. And that's something I think it's important for us to tell these people. You are unique and special and wonderful. You bring something important to the table. And you just did. Okay, one more group. Let's see. I didn't ask the other groups. Let's see. How about, I don't know, who'd you work with? Okay, what'd you come up with? Sure. Awesome. Literally 4 minutes. And here I want to say something intentionally too. You will see that like I try to randomly pick people as someone who might be leading something like this. If you're leading something like this, please make sure that you ask also the quiet ones, not just ones who look at you direct in the eye. And I didn't have time to do that, and I'm sorry for that because I really don't want to ignore that. But when you're leading people, you need to look at the people who are like, oh, and you can ask them ahead of time. This is something I do specifically. Is it okay if I have you say something? And if they're like, then I don't make them. But I encourage you as leaders to make a point of, it's not just the ones who are in front, in the corner, whatever it is. Make sure you talk to all the people. Okay. So, all right. So that's one thing. Now, another tool is Design for Delight. Anyone heard of that? I think of it as Design Thinking 2.0. That's totally me, not them, okay? Intuit, Quicken, So I did a virtual seminar, so this can be done completely virtually, by the way. Went to a virtual seminar last year, because I'm trying to think of tools that I can use in my classroom and with the organizations I work with. So this is all their stuff. I did not invent any of this, it's all their stuff, okay? The idea is, you still do customer empathy, you still figure things out, your whole problem is based on what the customer needs, talks to you about, not just what you think needs to happen, right? Come up with lots of ideas, not just one. Testing ideas and then repeating. So you can see the visuals up there. Now, some tools that they use. And whether you use these tools or just the idea, there's a lot of words. In a different situation, I'd actually make you talk about this. Like in your world, I'd make you say, so how are you going to do planning, leading, organizing, controlling to create a space for this, right? But we're not going to do that today. The thing I want you to think about is storyboards, okay? So we're going to come up this next one. So you start with customer empathy. And what I really liked about the Design for Delight process was it gave me a thing to use, like questions to ask. And that's why I wanted to share it with you. Again, didn't think these up. This is all from Design for Delight. For instance, how might we? I love that question. And actually, don't have time. But in your organizations, get together and think big, right? Or think small. I just don't have to be, you don't have to build a brand new building. It can be, how might we make sure our volunteers know that we recognize them when they walk in the door? Whatever it is, right? How might we? So you ask these kinds of questions. And then you talk about the customer problem statement, which I think was really important. And I'm going to come over here so I can read it better. So you talk about, oh dear, I can't read it up there either. I am, and then you insert whatever stakeholder category, whatever attribute you want to do. I'm a young man, young woman, single parent who is having a hard time putting food on the table for my kids. Like, you come up with their thing, right? And I'm trying to, if I just go with that analogy, I'm trying to feed my kids. I'm trying to get a more stable, solid life. But I'm not trained. I don't have access to food, whatever it is, right? Which, because then you tell them, like, I had to drop out because I got pregnant, or I had to drop out because my girlfriend got pregnant, whatever. And then, which makes me feel, and this is the key to Design for Delight, and I think for nonprofits, it's huge. It's a huge asset. How does your stakeholders feel? And I know that we don't know, right? Because we can't always assume how people feel, but we can at least, as we're doing this customer discovery piece, we can at least try and understand the empathy piece. Like, how would that make you feel? How do you think that makes them feel? Right? And if we do, that process, then we can come up with an ideal state. In an ideal state, okay, in a perfect world, I would be able to have a stable place to live and food on my table, and I'd actually maybe be able to give back some way to an organization that helped me. The biggest benefit to me is peace. Or the biggest benefit to me is a smile on my kids' faces. See, you know your constituents, your stakeholders, way better than I do. And this is where you talk to them, right? It's not like you don't assume these things. You talk to them, but you start out with, what am I trying to accomplish, right? Then which makes me feel, I feel so much more joy, right? So you start out with this deep customer empathy kind of process, okay? Then you can go into, I just did that. You basically come up with ideas, okay? And the idea of a storyboard, again, doesn't cost a dime. You can do this in a staff meeting. You can do this with your volunteers. You can come up with a storyboard about what the customer problem is. You can come up with how the customer finds your solution. We make sure that we advertise the resources we provide in unexpected places, because we know the expected places people are going to look for resources, but maybe the people aren't there because they're afraid to be there or scared to be there or don't want to be known. So where else can we put this information, right? How your solution would work, and I'm not going to come up with situations for that, but you go through this process. Then you actually go and you try it. Or at the very least, you ask about it. If you don't have the resources to, give me 5 minutes too on that, okay? If you don't have the resources to go do it, because again, limited resources, I totally get that. But you might at least ask customer discovery. What if we did this? How would you feel about that? I really appreciate your opinion because you matter to me, and what you need from us is important for us to know. And you're going to be helping others by helping us know what we need to do, right? But you go and you start asking these questions and you try stuff and then you go back to the ideating and the iterating, and then eventually you come up with the perfect solution. Okay, maybe not perfect. You come up with a good solution. You come up with a solution that you can do that fits into your world. Right? So, did I make it through? Oh, there's a visual. If you like visuals, if you like pictures. If I'd had time, I so was going to make you do one of these. You are so lucky I had you do the keychain one instead of this. But seriously, I mean, for visual learners, for people who get pictures, I wanted to put this up there so you could kind of get, well, what is she talking about when she talks about a storyboard? This is a picture. Did not draw this. Again, all from Intuit, from the quick Design for Delight folks. But I love it. And it also shows that it's not so scary. You don't have to be an artiste, as awesome as they are, and I love them because I work with them. But you can be me, and that's what I would draw, not going to pretend. I'm all about bullet, for the record. I love bullets, like bullet lists. You know, like when I do organizing, I love me a color-coded time calendar with bullets on it. Makes me so happy. So this would be what I would draw. Just telling you there, this would be what I would draw. You might be able to, so don't feel like because I can't draw, I can't do this. All right, and then just the last one. This is the last thing. Other things. Easy, cheap, circles. I literally give students a piece of paper with circles on it, and I tell them, do something with it. And then I give them 5 minutes on it. You could do this with your staff too, or volunteers, or people you're working with if you're trying to give people encouragement and confidence. And then they draw it, and I'm like, okay, so show people what you did. And what I like to find out is what rules they made for themselves. They're like, what can I connect the dots? Sure. Do I have to do every single circle? I don't know. But it's a thing, right? It makes them be creative. Another one is, I told you about Play-Doh and Legos. Exquisite Corpse, I kind of talked about that one. It's a thing from the early 1900s art thing where basically people would they would draw something in response to a statement, and then their team, and then the next team partner would draw something underneath that, and then another team partner would draw something underneath that. And there's more to it, but I don't. If you really want to know, look it up, or you can talk to me afterward. But the point is, they draw something that they didn't know they drew together, and then when they look at it, it's like, look what you did together that no one else would have done. It's pretty cool. And they're like, wow, look at us be a team. What a concept, right? We don't all think alike. We don't all vote alike. We don't all talk alike. We don't all whatever, but we did this thing. Pretty cool. And then talked about the keychain. Oh, brainstorm ideas. I love that one. I'm not going to read them all to you, but if it's up there if you want to take a picture, you want to look at it later. But literally, what would you do? What would a 5-year-old do? Since they're the ones who are creative geniuses, what would they do? Just ask your team. What would they do? Okay? So, with that, I actually will stop because we've got 5 more minutes. I'm not insulted if you need to go because, it's about lunchtime. But I also, if you have questions or concerns or thoughts or like, Megan, you talked way too fast, please, we have 5 minutes, and I'm more than happy to answer any questions or hear comments. What do you got?